Most game devs stay stuck because they focus on the wrong things. I've tested countless habits and only a few of them actually helped me double my output. By the end of this video, you'll know the 3 productivity habits that matter most if you want to finish your games faster. Number 3. Prioritize important tasks. So right now you might not actually be conscious of it at all, but right now you most likely mix your important tasks and your polishing things. So what you do right now is you probably just make a core system, or you improve it, like you do a hard task that actually move your project forward. Maybe you spend half the time on that, and the rest of that 50% you might just spend on polishing and fixing and testing the feature that you actually implemented. So you do these important tasks and these less important tasks like they are like one category. But instead you should prioritize the important tasks and you should deprioritize the less important tasks. And that starts by actually knowing what's the important tasks and what's the least important tasks. And this isn't actually that hard, you just have to pick out the tasks that actually move your project forward the most. So you can think when you're doing a task or when you're planning, you can think, will this task actually move my project forward significantly? And if the answer is yes, then it's an important task. If it's a no, then it's a less important task. And that doesn't mean to not do these less important tasks. It just means that you should not prioritize them, and you shouldn't do them when you are sitting down to focus and you want to be as productive as possible for that session. So what I do usually is I do the hard things in the morning, like making the core systems, and I just do the hard things about them. I don't test them like a lot. Obviously I test them, but not a lot. And I don't polish them or like fix small bugs in them. I just make the easiest possible version I can to just continue on to the next hard task. And then I save the polishing for either later in the evenings when I have lower energy and I can't focus as much. Or I write down the things I have to polish and I plan them into the future stages of my game, like the beta stages. And that's really good because in the beta stages, most systems are complete, and it's just better to polish when everything is complete rather than when you are actually building. You can think of it like this. So when you're building a house, you always build the walls before you polish the doorknobs. And that's the same for these polishing things in your game. You have to build the walls before you polish the doorknobs. And it's not hard to see why we do these things. Polishing, it feels productive because you might have it in your to-do list to polish the things and you can just check them off like very quickly. And you feel like you're doing a ton of things. But one hard thing is worth like 20 polishing things. Because that's what actually makes your game. You can't have a game without your core systems, but you could have a game without a polished UI. So to summarize, you have to know what the important tasks are and what the least important tasks are, and you have to prioritize the important ones. And you can do the less important ones when you have lower energy or in your later stages of your game. Basically just do them separately. Now moving on to 2, this is a really important one. It's time-boxed deadlines. So that basically just means, like I talked about before, what I used to do is I used to work in the mornings, and there's 2 things about that. First, I worked in the mornings, which is really good, but also I just had a set time to work. So instead of just working whenever I feel like it or when I had time, I actually had a set time where I knew I was going to work every single day. Even in the weekends, even when I had school, just every day. And everything besides this set time I was going to work every day, that was just extra work. So when I would work in the evenings, that would just be extra work. So it's really good to have a set time you work every single day, because then you can set deadlines for yourself and you kind of know what deadlines you need to set to challenge yourself and to force yourself to move forward. So for example, if you work let's say 1.5 hours every single morning, every day, then you can have deadlines set for every single session. And you kind of know, and especially when you have set some deadlines and you're kind of used to this, you know like exactly or roughly how much time you need to actually finish these different things. And since you work 1.5 hours every single day, you can kind of space them out so that you are forced to move forward, always. And you should also set them tightly enough that you have to use extra time. So as I said, when I would work on the evenings, that would be basically just extra time. So if I finished the deadlines I set for myself and I was really productive in the mornings, I didn't have to work that much in the evenings. I could do like polishing things or just plan out or like do other things that I wanted to. Or if I wasn't that productive that morning, I had to use the extra time or in the evenings to finish the deadlines I set. So you have to plan it out in a way that forces you to be productive and move forward and not waste time or skip any sessions. Because if you have deadlines that you actually need to work on to actually achieve them, then you can't just skip a session because then you'll miss the deadline or you can waste time either. So it's a fantastic way to not do these things. Now, if you want to learn more about deadlines and not wasting any time and finishing your games faster, I talk about that a lot in my course, which is called Smart Indie. It's the first link in the description. And number one, this is by far the most important thing for finishing games faster, and I call it finish over perfect. So this is a mindset that you need to have as a game developer. You need to make it exist first, and then you can make it good later. You've probably heard that before. So that basically just means you have to reprogram your brain to be at peace with something that's not perfect. So when you're making a system, you have to be at peace with it not being perfect at first, but you just have to remember that you can polish it up later in your beta stages or whenever, and not just get obsessed with these small details and having to make everything perfect, because the perfect doesn't exist. Like you can probably like polish your UI in the main menu for infinity. Like you would never be completely satisfied. There would always be something that you could do. So for this you have to have the mindset that you're always going to make the simplest version of this feature that you can, and then just make it good later. So when you're done making the simplest version you can, just move on to the next task. Don't waste any time on switching. Just go from one task to another when you have a foundation of the feature. Like when your hardest things about implementing it is actually finished. And then you can try making it perfect later, or at least make it polished. Because when you're sitting down to actually work and be productive and you want to get as much done as possible, then don't waste any time on polishing. Then you should just do these things that actually move your project forward a lot, and just being at peace with it not being perfect at first. And this also comes down to what we talked about before, that you have to separate the important tasks and the polishing tasks. So you just have to reprogram your brain, and you have to be at peace with something that's not what you think is perfect. You have to think that the most important thing is that you get the feature done and it's implemented, and then you can do some small tweaks and polishing things to make it fun or good later. But the most important thing is actually implementing the feature. That's 100 times more productive than actually polishing it and tweaking it. That's just the cherry on top. Now in this video I talked a lot about waking up early and having a set time that you should work, and that's a really important thing for all of these points. Waking up early and having a set time you work every day is the foundation of being productive in game dev. Because in the mornings you have the most energy and you are undistracted. So if you want to learn more about waking up early, which you definitely will not regret, then you can watch the video on screen right now. So thank you for watching this video. Click that one right now. See ya.